because I'm still trying how to learn to not be disappointed.
Last November.
And you want reconciliation. But I'm angry. You want your dad to show up for who he is. And I feel like Leon's already come to peace with this. And it's really hard because I don't feel like I have. I'm trying to understand that maybe he didn't know how to show up. And he might be hurting. And I'm angry.
He lied about me to the whole world, and the worst part? He made everybody think it was my fault. That one sentence, 11 words of sorrow, has rocked the Sister Wives universe to its foundation. Not because it's a quote from a stranger, but because it's from Maddie Brush, the daughter of Kody Brown, the fellow the world used to know as the smiling, self-assured patriarch of TLC's best-known polygamous clan. But behind that smile, there are fissures. Fissures that now have become canyons. Fissures that no camera, no editing suite, and no public announcement can conceal any longer. Welcome to Behind TLC Sister Wives, where we reveal the stories the cameras never told. Today's episode goes deep inside Maddie Brush's explosive argument with her father, Kody Brown, a battle of betrayal, heartbreak, and surprises no one could have predicted. This is more than family drama. This is the story of a daughter who finally speaks out. For years, viewers saw Kody Brown and his big family, 4 wives, almost 24 children, and a lifestyle founded upon faith and disarray, fight to keep it all together. We witnessed the laughter. We witnessed the tears. We witnessed the marriages deteriorate, the tears fall, and the dreams break, all nicely wrapped up for reality television. But what do we see when the cameras stop rolling? When the program ends? And the reality starts? Because that's exactly where this journey begins. The breaking point. Maddie Brush was never referred to as anything other than the calm one, soft-spoken, thoughtful, grounded. While other relatives spoke out in pain on television, Maddie generally kept quiet, opting for peace rather than drama. Silence, though, can carry only so much pain. And one day, it broke. It wasn't in a TV interview. It wasn't in a reunion special. It wasn't even during a family gathering. It was on Instagram. A simple posting of a story. A couple of words typed out of anger. That became a storm of reality. Your dad telling you lies about you for the whole wide world to hear teaches you real quick. That's all she wrote. No hashtags. No names. No straight-up attack. But everyone knew. She was referring to Kody Brown. And suddenly, with a single story post, the veil was lifted. The internet blew up. Fans bombarded comment sections, Reddit threads, and fan pages. Some were shocked. Others chimed in, finally. Someone said it. But what had Kody lied about, exactly? And why would Maddie, having avoided the show's drama for years, decide to speak out now? To grasp that, we have to look back. Back to the start of what appeared to be a picture-perfect family, but was actually a trap of half-truths, manipulation, and suffering. Because behind every sister-wife smile, there's a story the cameras didn't capture. And this one? It's about a dad who lost the trust of his daughter, not because of what he did behind closed doors, but because of what he said in public. He didn't just lie about me. He led the world to believe that I was the issue. In that very chilling sentence, Maddie did not just reveal a chasm. She revealed a legacy, a pattern of emotional control that has plagued the Brown family for years. Now she is shattering it. Because for Maddie, telling isn't revenge. It's redemption. It's reclaiming her truth. It's the moment she refuses to be edited, silenced, or twisted for someone else's storyline. And that is where the story begins. A father. A daughter. A lie broadcast to millions. And the emotional explosion that would change everything. The post that broke the internet, it was just one sentence. No tag. No mention. No hashtags. But those 13 words set the internet on fire. Because when Maddie Brush, daughter of Sister Wives patriarch Kody Brown, hit post, she wasn't simply posting a thought. She was lighting a firestorm, years of frustration, betrayal, and bottled-up pain bursting forth. The moment it went viral, it was just a typical day on Instagram. Maddie had posted a contemplative anecdote about energy and boundaries, a subtle message about peace and self-improvement. One follower naively responded, "I have trouble setting boundaries." And then came the response that made everything shift. Maddie's post wasn't booming, it was quiet, intentional, and brutally truthful. It wasn't typed to elicit sympathy. It was typed to stake claim to truth. In a matter of minutes, screenshots went viral, through Reddit comment threads, Facebook forums, fan groups, and TikTok edits. The caption, "Maddie finally speaks out," went viral throughout Sister Wives communities. Because the fans didn't simply read words, they felt them. Anyone who ever had been misrepresented by a parent, anyone who ever had watched their story manipulated for public image, they all understood what Maddie said. This wasn't defiance. It was awakening. The underlying meaning in the words, "Your dad telling lies about you for the whole world to hear." That line stings more when your dad is Kody Brown, a man whose every utterance, every tear, and every tantrum has been broadcast for more than a decade. The words, "for the whole world to hear," weren't a poetic license, it was fact. Millions of people did hear him. They listened to him discuss his children's distance, their loyalty, their silence, defining them as cold, ungrateful, disconnected. But what Maddie's post revealed was this: it's not distance when you're guarding yourself. It's not silence when you're embracing peace. And it's not betrayal when you finally tell your truth. Her post wasn't revenge. It was survival boundaries. Unseen tension, years in the making behind all the slick TLC cuts and Kody's pity party monologues. There's been something cooking, something quiet, subtle, but weighty. The tension between Kody and his daughter didn't start with this Instagram post. It started years ago in the unseen territory of expectation and disappointment. Maddie, once adamant that Kody was her hero, started to see he was gone, not physically, but emotionally. He was missing milestones. He pushed aside emotions. And worst of all, when the cameras started rolling, he gave his account of their tale. The world met a dad who just wanted his children back. But Maddie witnessed a man redefining her reality. When he said, "Maddie never let me know she was pregnant," the crowd gasped. But for Maddie, that was the tipping point. Picture hearing your own father say, on live national television, that you had deliberately excluded him from one of the most important moments of your life. Picture knowing that was not true. And picture millions of people now thinking you were the one who excluded him. That's not a misunderstanding. That's character assassination, broadcast for ratings. Public image versus private reality. Kody Brown constructed his image on screen, the charming, overwhelmed father of many keeping a ginormous family together. But Maddie's post ripped a hole through that facade. Because it showed something terrifying, that behind the scenes, the same man preaching unity was causing division. The same man pleading for respect was spreading rumors that described his children as aloof, unloving, or rebellious. And now, the daughter he underestimated had spoken, not on camera, but online, where he couldn't edit her words. The world reacts comment sections flooded with messages like, "Maddie finally said what we've all been thinking. Kody's lies have consequences. She's protecting her peace. I'm proud of her." In a matter of hours, the family's private wounds became public again, but this time, it wasn't TLC writing the script. It was Maddie. And this time, there was no producer to intervene. Her silence breaks, and so does the internet. For years, Maddie avoided the drama. She didn't pursue headlines or create controversy. But occasionally, the truth finds its way out. Her post wasn't boisterous, but it screamed louder than any season finale. It was a whisper that thundered. A line masquerading as a confession. And as those 13 words went viral across the internet, one thing was certain: this was not a social media post. It was a call to arms against false narratives. A daughter, fed up of being misrepresented. A woman, fed up of being spoken for. And a human being, taking back her story from the person who should have shielded it in the first place. One post. One truth. One storm that tore through all the world believed it knew about the Brown family. What did Kody say? He shared his story with the cameras. He shared it confidently, with conviction. With that same charming smile that deceived millions. But when the words escaped his lips, they didn't just devastate his daughter. They rewrote her reality. Father's version of the truth on national TV, Kody Brown portrayed very specifically his daughter, Maddie. It was the image of a deserted father, a man unjustly excluded by his child's decisions. In one scene, he said to Robin, "You saw Madison take her kids and scuttle them away from me. She never said to me that she was pregnant." He said it so offhandedly, like mentioning an old injury. But the accusation was there in those words. To the viewers at home, it sounded easy to understand: a hurt father. A distant daughter. A fractured relationship by neglect. But the reality, Maddie insists, was never that easy. The lie that cut deep. Consider that moment for a moment. Your dad, a man you once admired, lies to millions of people about you, telling them that you concealed your pregnancy from him. That you opted to leave him out of your life's greatest achievement. But what if that's not the case? What if you were already erased long before that point, by distance, indifference, and emotional disregard? Maddie didn't remain silent due to wishful thinking. She remained silent because talking seemed futile. Because each time she does, the story is already told. And this time, Kody didn't just distort what she did. He turned her into the villain of his tale. I just don't understand why my kids don't talk to me. I've always loved them. I've done everything I can. But beneath that puffy admission is a pattern, a man who confuses control with care, obedience with love. Kody's version always centers himself. I'm the one who's hurt. I'm the one left behind. I'm the one they don't appreciate. But what Maddie's post exposed was something no one had dared to say out loud before. Maybe the kids didn't leave Kody. Maybe Kody left them. Rewriting reality, a father's power. When Kody speaks, people listen. He's been the face of Sister Wives for more than a decade, his voice, his narration, his emotions leading the show's storyline. But power can be misused when it's employed to reconstruct the truth. And Kody made good use of that power. On camera, he presented himself as the misunderstood patriarch. Off camera, his kids claim he was aloof, condescending, and more concerned with protecting his ego than mending his relationships. In one of the confessions, Kody declared, "The kids have picked sides. They've picked their moms over me. That's not love. That's betrayal." But to Maddie, it hadn't been about sides, it had been about protection. Because sometimes the only way to get through emotional chaos is to remove yourself from it entirely. The emotional fallout. Maddie's silence was her protection, until Kody's words made the silence translate into accusation. He made it sound like she'd left him behind. But actually, she'd been trying to recover from him. Every sentence he utters on camera wasn't just an admission, it was a wound. Every interview he did wasn't just a confession, it was a rewrite. And every time he said he doesn't get why his kids won't speak to him, fans saw brokenness, but Maddie saw manipulation. Because what happens when someone hurts you? And then tells the world you're the one who broke them? That's not love. That's gaslighting, wrapped in fatherly sorrow. The world's perception, and Maddie's reality. Kody's tears became TV moments. His confusion became sympathy. His pain became plot. Millions believed his version, the struggling dad who just wanted unity. And Maddie? She became the shadow in the background. The silent daughter who just floated away. Until today. Her Instagram story wasn't mere defiance. It was adjustment. It was her reclaiming her story from the man who'd been penning it for her, episode of TLC at a time. He lied about her on TV. But she spoke truth to power in her own voice. No camera crew. No producer. No edits. Just pure emotion, finally unmuzzled. A daughter's awakening. The world now sees the contrast. Kody's was public, polished, and performed. Maddie's truth is private, painful, and pure. And for the first time, the audience isn't applauding for the patriarch. They're hearing the daughter. Because at the end of the day, it's not about who said it first, it's about who's finally being heard. He told his story on TV. She shared hers with the world. And now, everyone's waiting to see whose will last. Maddie's side, the hurt, the silence, the boundary. You grow up thinking your dad is your protector. But what do? When the person you're supposed to protect you from becomes the one you have to protect yourself from? A snapshot of a young Maddie appears on the screen, bright eyes, wide smile. A family photo. Then, gradually, the image breaks, one crack, followed by another, until the image breaks into pieces. That's what pain feels like when it is not of the flesh. You can't see the scars. But you can feel all the cracks. The hurt that lingers in silence for years. Maddie Brush had a silent pain, the sort that does not shout, but chokes. On camera, the world was introduced to a contented daughter, new mother, expanding family of her own. But off camera, she was fighting something more sinister, the gradual awareness that the man she used to refer to as dad wasn't actually being present anymore. He was present for cameras. He was present for confessionals. He was present when people were watching. But when the cameras went dark, he was nowhere. Maddie once told her quietly, "You want your dad to appear? You keep learning how not to be disappointed." Those words have more agony to them than any fight ever can. It's that kind of heartache that occurs when hope dies slowly. The weight of disappointment. Imagine this, every phone call becomes a maybe. Every milestone, a baby born, a child's birthday, goes by with silence. And yet, the world continues to see him on television, uttering, "I love my family more than everything." That conflict, between what the world hears and what you experience, gnaws away at your peace. In Maddie's case, the letdown wasn't from distance alone. It was from the act of love without its actuality. Because nothing hurts quite so much as to see the version of someone you want there, acted out by the person who isn't. The breaking of silence. Her silence was not weakness. It was survival. For so many years, Maddie remained silent, not because she was too afraid to speak, but because each word was like screaming into a void. A void of excuses. A void of half-truths. But when Kody went public, distorting that silence into shame, something within her broke. That post on Instagram, that one sentence, wasn't anger. It was the moment a woman said, "Enough. I won't let you define me anymore." Her voice wasn't shouting. It didn't have to be. Because sometimes, whispers hold the most power. Therapy, healing, and the rebuilding of self in a still moment. In the midst of a Q&A, a fan asked Maddie, "How do you deal with all this pain?" She didn't deflect. She didn't dramatize. She responded graciously, "I see a professional therapist on and off. I've benefited a lot from it." Those words might sound plain, but in an age where everything becomes spectacle, that's bravery. Therapy hadn't been about blame. It had been about awareness. It had been about realizing that you could love someone and still require space. That you could forgive, yet never forget. And that boundaries aren't walls, they're doors that lock from the inside when peace is threatened. Through therapy, Maddie started to realize what love was supposed to feel like, and what it had evolved into. She came to see boundaries weren't mean. They were needed. They were her shield. The power of the boundaries aren't punishment. They're protection. That's Maddie's unofficial maxim now. And it's transformed her whole life. She no longer lets chaos into her house. She no longer opens her heart to being manipulated. She no longer pursues approval that was never offered freely. When fans asked her about Maddie Brown, she answered firmly, "I forgive her, but she will never be part of my children's lives." Forgiveness doesn't mean access, and Maddie finally learned that truth. Because when you've lived too long in emotional noise, silence becomes sacred. And protecting your peace becomes a revolution. A woman reborn. Maddie's not bitter, she's awake. She's not angry, she's aware. And awareness is the beginning of freedom. Her life these days isn't about what Kody has to say, or what TLC depicts. It's about living with her children in peace. It's about ending the cycle of hurt she came into. It's about selecting quiet truth over brazen lies. In a real sense, Maddie didn't leave her father. She moved toward herself. Once a daughter learns to cease pursuing love from her father, she at last discovers hers. Her tale is not flawless. Her heart doesn't mend overnight. Yet, for the first time, peace is not an act, but hers. And for the first time, her silence isn't terror, but liberation. Hidden secrets and shocking twists no one expected. All families have secrets. But when your life is unfolding on the national stage, those secrets aren't kept, they're cut, and when the truth finally manages to intrude, it doesn't speak in a low voice. It blows. The pregnancy that wasn't shared. The first secret that emerged surprised even die-hard fans. Kody asserted, publicly, on camera, that Maddie never told him she was pregnant. His voice? Hurt. His face? Sad. The message? A dad shut out of his daughter's life. But backstage, something more was taking place. Maddie's mother, Kody Brown, later explained a different reality, that Maddie kept her pregnancy secret on purpose because she didn't trust Kody with her most intimate moments anymore. She didn't feel the need to share something so special, Kody explained, with someone who wasn't really there. That wasn't anger, it was protection. Because to Maddie, telling Kody good news no longer seemed safe. It seemed like sharing her joy with someone who'd use it for material later on. The world perceived she shut him out. But in truth, she was just closing a door that needed to be closed long ago. Secret number 2, the loyalty divide. Behind the facade of the show, yet another war raged on, not between wives, but between children and loyalty. Kody would frequently tell us on camera that his children chose sides, that they allied themselves with their mothers over him. He referred to it as betrayal. But the twist of fate? It wasn't rebellion, it was reaction. Kody lived in a world of control. And when that control started to break down, when Christine, Janelle, and even the kids refused to play along his script, he began rewriting history. Silence was loyalty to him. To them, silence was strangulation. So they shattered the unwritten family rule, never make dad look bad. And Maddie's status, whether she intended to or not, was a statement of independence, not only for her, but for all the children who'd had to live by his form of truth. Secret number 3, manipulation. Behind the camera. For years, viewers believed Sister Wives revealed all raw emotion, authentic conflict, unedited reality. But sources hint that some scenes weren't quite as unrehearsed as they seemed. Some conversations, some sobs, were suggested. Some stories were framed. And who was the one central figure of that narrative? Kody Brown. All the storylines centered on his emotions, his hurt, his struggles. But what of everyone else's truth? Maddie, as with much of the Brown children, understood she was not merely existing within a family, she was existing in a show. And when one has control of both the story and the camera, truth is something no one can afford. The emotional distance that began it all. Here's the piece nobody saw coming. The emotional drift didn't start with an argument. It started with busyness disguised as neglect. As the family grew, Kody's time grew thin. Children started fighting over snippets of his attention, birthdays escaped, milestones forgotten, feelings invalidated. And Maddie, once so connected to her dad, started catching on to the trend. He wasn't present when she needed counsel. He wasn't present when she was struggling as a new mom. But when cameras were rolling, suddenly, he cared. That's the type of hurt that accumulates quietly, and then one day, it detonates. Her tweet wasn't in response to a single lie. It was in response to a lifetime of emotional erasure. Secret number 5, the hidden strength no one saw coming, and then the shocker, the one which turns the whole story. For years, the fans have known Maddie as the reserved, compliant daughter. The one who avoided drama, who didn't take sides. But they never noticed the woman she was becoming in the background. While other people were falling apart, Maddie was building up. She was learning about human behavior, delving into therapy, raising her children with understanding rather than fear. She was doing things behind the scenes, day by day, opposite of all that she had been taught. While Kody preached control, Maddie practiced empathy. Whereas he required devotion, she drew lines. And whereas he needed the affirmation of viewers, she had serenity and seclusion. The unexpected turn? The daughter he had accused of being unfaithful was the most emotionally intelligent of them all. Covered-up truths collide. The phrase everyone parroted was more than a lie. It was about the value behind it. Maddie discovered peace is not in repairing other people, it's in releasing. She discovered truth does not have to be defended, it only has to be told once, clearly and peacefully. And she discovered sometimes the best love story is the one you write to yourself when you make it through someone else's mess. The shock that altered everything when the episode was broadcast and Kody's words came back online, the family setup changed forever. Some of the siblings took a stand behind Maddie. Others remained quiet. But something irrevocable had occurred, the fantasy of perfect family broken. And in its stead, a new reality, one in which honesty was valued above hierarchy. In which truth was valued more than image. And where Maddie's bravery was the reflection that compelled all of us, fans, relatives, and even Kody, to confront what was truly there. Behind the smiles were secrets. Behind the sermons were lies. And behind the silence was strength. Because sometimes, the biggest shock isn't betrayal. It's honesty. The fallout, when truth becomes a weapon, it only takes one truth. To burn down an empire built on lies. Truth was told. And the minute it went on the internet, there was no unsaying it. The internet storm in a couple of hours, Maddie's words were a digital blaze. Fans analyzed each word of her message. Every forum, every subreddit, every Facebook group exploded. She's courageous, she finally spoke up for what everyone else was thinking. She's done covering for him. And then, there were others who pushed back. Family should remain private, why bring your dad online? She's just fueling the drama. The fandom was divided, half rallying behind Maddie, half hanging on to Kody's familiar dad persona. But one thing was certain, the illusion was lost. People no longer witnessed the lovable, misunderstood dad. They observed the pattern, the manipulation, the control, the public self-pity. For years, Sister Wives walked that thin line between performance and reality. But now, the viewers could finally distinguish between the two. The family breaks up in real time inside the Brown family, things grew tense, colder than they had ever been. Texts ceased. Calls weren't returned. Family group chats went silent. Christine and Janelle, both long estranged from Kody, stood by Maddie quietly. But not publicly. They understood the power of words to be manipulated. Robin and Kody, however, interpreted the post as an attack. He allegedly informed those around him, she's been influenced. She's making me the bad guy again. But to Maddie, this wasn't about influence. It was about integrity. And in that moment, the truth didn't simply divide the family, it exposed who had already been divided all along. Truth is a double-edged sword. This is the thing about truth, it frees the honest and kills the dishonest. But it also hurts everyone in the middle. Maddie's truth had set her free, but there was a price tag. Every word on the page weighed something, a lifetime of feeling boiled down to a few digital strokes. But in families such as the Browns, truth not only heals, it hurts. It wounds those who remain committed to the lie. It wounds those who are not prepared to confront it. And it wounds especially those who have invested in being right. Kody's pride was unable to tolerate public contradiction. He wasn't losing a daughter, he was losing the script. And that wounded the most deeply. The media shines the light, every entertainment platform covered it. News, People, Yahoo, TV season spoilers, they all had an opinion. Screenshots of Maddie's post sat alongside Kody's tearful TV moments. The juxtaposition was stark. Kody's tearful tantrums now seemed staged. His confusion, acted. And his hurt? Selective. Because as he pleaded the world for understanding, Maddie wasn't pleading for sympathy, she was demanding truth. For the first time, people saw the difference between acting broken and being broken. The emotional fallout behind the headlines, however, there was still a family, wounded, shattered, and hurting. Maddie didn't capitalize on her viral moment. She went quiet once more. Because this wasn't about going viral, it was about being heard. She didn't post more, didn't milk it, didn't make it drama. She simply retreated to what mattered most, her husband, her children, her peace. But her silence spoke volumes. It told the world, I've said what needed to be said. Now, I'm done performing. The world redefines the Browns. Fans started seeing the family differently. The hero and villain roles that had once seemed clear began to blur. Kody's once commanding presence looked smaller now, defensive, almost fragile. Maddie's soft-spoken word, the one he'd not taken seriously, was a beacon of truth for those who had once worshipped the Brown family. It was said best by commentators, Kody created a narrative of togetherness, but his kids are the ones demonstrating what true strength is. The truth did not kill the Browns. It exposed them. When truth becomes a weapon, the most eerie aspect of all this. Maddie didn't intend for her words to lead to war. But once truth is spoken, it lives on its own life. And in this instance, it was made into a weapon, not one used by her with malice, but one that sliced through denial of so many years. Her truth revealed not only her father's deception, but the emotional framework that silenced all of them. The consequences weren't merely public, but generational. The kids who used to quake in fear of Kody's authority now realized that his authority was derived from silence. And Maddie had shattered it. He spoke with cameras. She with courage. And the world determined which one was true. The redefinition ultimately, this was not merely a social media controversy. It was a reckoning. For years, Sister Wives taught us how it was to be raised in a family that practiced faith and oneness, but it took the strength of one daughter to demonstrate what transpires when oneness is practiced based on fear. Fans no longer perceive Kody the same. They don't perceive him as misunderstood. They perceive him as revealed. And they no longer perceive Maddie as quiet. They perceive her as empowered. For sometimes, truth isn't kind. Sometimes, it's flames. And Maddie struck a match she can never extinguish, a match that incinerated illusion, performance, and pretense, leaving only the naked truth of who they truly are. When lies fall apart, the truth just stands there, unafraid, unshakable, and undeniable. What happens next? Silence is never empty. It's just another form of speech. That's where we're at now, the quiet after the storm. No more posts. No more statements. Silence. But beneath it, tension whirs like a live wire. Because everyone, the fans, the family, the world, is waiting for one thing. Is Kody Brown going to respond? The waiting game. He's been here before, cornered by criticism, laid bare by the truth. Each time, he's managed to spin it. A tear. A confession. A plea for understanding. But this time, something is different. Because this is not an ex-wife calling him out. It's his daughter. His blood. His legacy. And when the people who defended you once stop talking, the silence begins to sound like guilt. Behind the scenes, rumors circulate. Producers tread carefully. TLC keeps its mouth shut. Everyone's wondering, is the next season going to touch on it? Will Kody finally speak, or act like it never occurred? For a man who's made a career of being heard, his silence is the loudest thing he's ever uttered. Maddie sighed, peace in the eye of the storm. Meanwhile, Maddie's existence goes on in the background, almost too discreetly. No interviews. No statements. No media sightings. Just quiet pictures of family life, children playing, sunbeams streaming through kitchen windows. To the world, it appears healing. To those who know, it's safeguarding. Because peace, for Maddie, is not the lack of noise, it's the insistence on not being involved with chaos. She's finished attempting to mend a man who cannot confront himself. She's finished attempting to explain pain to individuals who prosper from her silence. And perhaps, that's the last act of courage, not yelling back, but walking away entirely. Within the Brown family, a shattered legacy. The dynamic of the family has forever been altered. Discussions have become guarded. Trust is like glass, fractured, brittle, ready to break again. Christine prioritizes liberty. Janelle keeps her peace. Robin grasps at denial. And Kody? He is lost, engulfed in his own echo chamber. Those who used to call him DOD now call him Kody. Those who once were looking for his approval are looking for peace. And for a man who defined love as loyalty, that's the hardest irony of all. Because when control is lost, so is the illusion of power. The world holds its breath. Will there be an apology? Will he call? Will he admit the hurt, or rephrase it anew in some other confession? The internet holds its breath. Fans theorize. Each silence, each evasive Instagram post, each TLC preview teaser is analyzed like a message. Because everybody knows, when the Browns fall silent, something monumental is about to drop. Perhaps a showdown. Perhaps healing. Perhaps nothing at all, and perhaps that is precisely the idea. Because sometimes ignorance is more potent than facts themselves. The endless emotional suspense, the tragedy, and the beauty of this narrative is that it doesn't end. Real families don't. Maddie's words are still ringing out across timelines and televisions. Fans continue to rewatch the moments, analyzing facial expressions, tone, motive. Every pause hangs heavy. Every smile feels like deceit. Every silence feels like before the storm. It's filmic in the most melancholic sense, a tale that began as a series about family, and concluded as a lesson in truth, love, and the price of survival. He shared his tale for ratings. She did for restoration. Now, the world looks to see who narrates the conclusion. The final shot. Maddie shuts her laptop. Kody stands in a blackened space, his reflection broken in a mirror. Christine and Janelle smile softly with grandkids, sun streaming in the window. Robin gazes out into space, quiet, inscrutable. Coyote Pass unfinished territory remains vacant. A reminder of all that was promised but never constructed. The truth has no ending, only echoes, the resolution, the real reason this story matters. Every storm leaves behind silence. And in that silence, you find what really matters. Clarity. After the fire for months, the world discussed who was in the right. Kody's community rallied around him. Maddie's statement were parsed apart, reposted a million times. But when the din died down, something wonderful occurred. Individuals began to perceive this narrative for what it really was, not a family feud, not reality television nonsense, but a mirror. A mirror to the reality of so many lives, the hurt of not being believed. The pain of being misunderstood. The courage it takes to leave behind someone you still love. This was no longer about the Browns. This was about every daughter who's ever been silenced. Every child who's watched their parent lie and smiled through the pain. Each individual who's ever spoken. That's not how it actually went down. The human lesson behind the headlines, the bravery that Maddie displayed allowed others to have something that is most uncommon, permission. Permission to establish boundaries. Permission to cease apologizing for maintaining their peace. Permission to speak about being hurt, even when the world perceives that person as a hero. Because love isn't blind devotion. It's truth. And not healing is not faking the wound didn't happen, it's staring at the scar and whispering, I made it through that. When Maddie took the road of truth rather than silence, she didn't break up her family. She just stopped allowing lies to define it. That's the true reason this story counts. The ripple effect, why people connected her post, her sorrow, her serenity, it was a lifeline for countless numbers of people. Messages poured in from around the world. I've lived this. She gave me strength to set boundaries. She made me realize I'm not crazy for walking away. In telling her truth, Maddie unknowingly started a movement, one about reclaiming your story, no matter how loud the other voices are. Because sometimes, the most powerful rebellion isn't shouting. It's saying nothing more than, this is my truth. Believe it, or don't. The family, rebuilding in pieces. The Browns will always be less than they once were, and perhaps less should be more. Broken does not necessarily require repair. Sometimes it requires redefinition. Christine discovered her happiness. Janelle discovered her resilience. Maddie discovered her voice. Even Kody, admit it or not, has been compelled to face something he cannot command. The truth persists beyond him. The family will never again sit around one table. But perhaps that is not the tragedy, perhaps that is the start of something authentic. Because peace built on silence isn't peace, it's performance. And now, at last, the pretending stops. The legacy of courage, your dad telling lies about you for the whole world to hear, teaches you real quick. What started as a sentence of hurt turned into a tale of strength. A daughter who would not remain edited. A woman who took her pain and turned it into healing. And a truth that no longer needs permission to be. Maddie's resilience brings to mind the times when the greatest revolutions are the loudest ones, yet they occur quietly, in therapy sessions, late-night writing, or a simple post that says, enough. Her narrative is not entertainment. It's a lesson, that peace isn't perfection. That love can end and leave something holy behind. And that truth, however buried, will always find the light. The final words, he built a world of walls. She built a life of peace. And at the end, it wasn't the cameras, or the contracts, or the chaos that endured. It was the courage to finally tell the truth. The screen goes black. White text on black, some truths aren't meant to destroy, they're meant to set you free. Then, gradually, behind TLC Sister Wives, the truth. The suffering. The bravery. The resolution, the real reason this story matters. Subscribe for more emotional true stories and real human moments, only on Behind TLC Sister Wives.